I hesitate to use the word, but I can't think of a better one. The Energy Independence Bill is bonkers.
So, Greg, former British diplomat, you're the man in the know. Tell me, what's happening? Because right now we're seeing a leadership struggle at number 10. Wes Streeting went in for that awkwardly short meeting on Wednesday, and then we've had, Angela Rayner's back in the mix. Are we going to have a new Prime Minister this time next week? Or,
I mean, I've said before, Ryan, I don't think the Prime Minister lasts the summer. The way things are going at the minute, I'm not sure he's going to last a couple of weeks. But I think the worst thing about all of this is it's just more instability. It's more drama. The newspapers thrive on this, but it's not good for the country, and it's not good for us in the northeast, and it's not good for Scotland, because business wants stability. It wants to know what the policy is. It wants to know where it's meant to go. It wants to know what it's dealing with. And this drama means it doesn't have that at the minute.
And so when it comes to that, because this has also come at a time where this morning we're hearing reports that the economy's grown in the first quarter of the year. Is that something that's likely to be knocked? Obviously, we'll also have the impacts of the war in the Middle East to come as well. But is that something that's maybe going to put the brakes on that a bit?
I don't think so. I mean, I think there's too much damage has been done. I think it's going to be hard for the Labour Party to row back from where things have gone. And to be fair, the Prime Minister hasn't been that bad. What he hasn't done, I mean, he came in with a whacking great majority. He had the opportunity to do the infrastructure, to build the stuff, to really make a difference. And instead, what are people talking about? His U-turns, the appointment of Peter Mandelson as ambassador to the US, and then this drubbing at the local elections last week. I think it's going to be hard for the Labour Party not to do something, because otherwise the Prime Minister is going to be seen, I think, as a lame duck for however long he's left there.
But energy is still at the forefront of this party. And yesterday, again, I described the meeting with Wes Streeting as a little bit awkward. I guess even more awkward would have been the King's speech yesterday. All the MPs followed the Prime Minister, who they know is more than likely not going to be here very soon. But we did get the announcement of that energy bill.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of noise around that yesterday. What's your takeaways?
So Chris Stark, who your boss Erica has just mentioned as Ed Miliband's energy brain, has just spoken this morning here at All Energy, and he said that one of the things the government needs to do is be less preachy. Well, it might have been good if he'd said that to Michael Shanks yesterday before he came and preached to everybody in that room. And I'm not sure Ed Miliband can be anything but preachy when it comes to this. But the Energy Independence Bill, I think, it's a real... I understand the logic of what they're trying to do. I understand the desire to drive forward renewables, to drive forward investment in that, to fix the infrastructure, to fix the transmission. But I'm not sure legislation which bans future exploration is the way to do it at this stage. And you've seen the reaction from across the country, the SNP, and in some ways, and I hesitate to use the word, but I can't think of a better one, the Energy Independence Bill is bonkers, frankly.
Well, I've got a headline, so thank you, Greg.
And that's not Reform UK policy and Conservative policy of drill baby drill is equally bonkers. But trying to restrict something is not the way to do it. We need to find compromise. We need pragmatism. We need to understand what we need to do going forward to ensure the transition, to ensure energy security, to ensure energy resilience. And banning something is not a good way to do that, in my view.
And so, here at All Energy, we've heard talk of wind farms and the projects being stalled, cancelled, delayed in Scotland. Obviously, it's a slightly different story south of Hadrian's Wall. When it comes to that, and when we're hearing, no exploration, it's completely banned. We know that there's only tiebacks that are going to be accessible to oil firms. Once upon a time, Aberdeen was told that wind was going to be the thing that's going to create jobs, beyond oil and gas, and that's what's going to keep the city as the energy capital. Yesterday we heard Glasgow being sort of proposed as the new energy capital of the UK. Obviously it makes sense, we're in Glasgow for all energy, but at a time where this is happening, is there any way to see this as being even slightly positive for Aberdeen?
I mean, I think regardless of what was said yesterday about Glasgow, the reality is, where is the experience? Where are the skills? Where are still the people? And that's not in Glasgow. That's still up in Aberdeen. But there are fundamental issues that need to be addressed. And fair enough, Chris Stark mentioned these as well. You know, the transmission, the process of transmitting the power from wind farms and solar up here, in the Highlands, down south. It's a fundamental problem. The infrastructure just isn't there. But I think, and one of the things from here, you know, there's a buzz about here that wasn't in offshore Europe last year, and I think that reflects the feeling amongst people in Aberdeen about how they're being beaten down a little bit by this government. They're feeling that this government is presiding over a deindustrialisation process akin to what Margaret Thatcher did with coal. And that's quite something to say about a Labour government. So if as Chris Stark says, the government needs to be less preachy, then it also needs to be more pragmatic, more compromising, more willing to sort of talk. And actually, whenever it says we'll need oil and gas for decades and decades to come, well, why are we bringing that in from elsewhere when we can get it locally?
So less preaching and more hearing from the choir, is what
I'm saying. Exactly. And it's they're in government. Industry needs stability. Industry wants less drama. Industry just wants an investment climate which allows it to put the 17 billion quid into investment that it has said it will. And the reality is, all of the taxes which the government has put up, you know, EPL, spirits, etc., there's actually been reduced intake. So the amount of tax income has gone down, regardless of the fact that taxes have gone up.
So do you see the stance now from oil and gas firms and trade bodies like Offshore Energies UK that have been lobbying for the change to the oil and gas price mechanism? Do you see that really ramping up in light of the?
I think it's got to. I mean, the industry and the organisations and all of us who are involved in the industry need to keep banging away. They need to keep banging away with the facts, need to keep banging away with the logic. Now, whether or not that's enough to overcome an ideology, I don't know. But, you know, at the end of the day, this is about, you know, the man and the woman on the street. This is about the over 100,000 workers across the country, not just in Scotland, who are dependent on the oil and gas industry, and all of the support on top of that. So we've just got to keep trying.
And so I guess the question is, you know, you speaking on that sort of lobbying front, on that sort of influencing government policy and trying to get the industry's voice heard. You already discussed how, you know, the reform and conservative baby drill mentality is also not the right approach. Yeah. Recently on Energy Voice, you wrote about how the industry needs to campaign, and it's not by going to extremes the way that we are seeing in politics, right?
Yes, no, exactly. I mean, you've got to keep this unemotional, you've got to keep this fact-based, you've got to keep banging out the information that shows the impact of what it's doing, because as soon as you go over to the emotions or as soon as you go to the extremes, whether that's on the left or the right, you've admitted that you've lost the argument.
Right, well, Greg, I feel like we should probably be recording this 5 seconds before this podcast goes out, because they used to say a week's a long time in politics. I feel like an hour is a long time in British politics at the moment.
Exactly.
So all of this might be unusable in the next hour, so we better rush to get it out. But thank you for joining me.
Lovely to see you again.